Hey there, my lovely. It's always fantastic when I get feedback from coaching clients. The other day, I received this message. My client wanted to show her appreciation because in our coaching conversation, I gave her some strategies to deal with having a difficult conversation with her CEO. So I'm sure that you've all been in the position where you've been in the middle of change within your business or an organisation, and you know that crap is going to hit the fan because you can see some unhelpful behaviours around you, right? It's even more tricky if those unhelpful behaviours are from senior leaders. In this live, I'm going to share this recent example from my coaching client. A quick backstory is that she is in the midst of significant change, and some leaders are displaying unhelpful behaviour. They're not supporting one another. The sponsor of the change, it's the CEO, and the behaviour of this other senior leader wasn't in line with the values, and it seemed to be a blind spot for the CEO. The CEO didn't seem to see what was going on around them. The process I shared with my client is from it's a leadership execution guide, and the process is from the leadership execution guide on difficult conversations. And I'm going to share that exact process with you now. The process is called ALASCAS. And the ALASCAS process, as I mentioned, comes from it's an extract from my difficult conversations execution guide. And I like to have mnemonics to help people remember this when they're having conversations. And this mnemonic is ALASCAS. The A stands for activate open conversation. Look, when crap is happening, the shit is hitting the fan, the temptation is to go and offload to the CEO or to the senior leader that is displaying the unhelpful behaviour. But when you when it's grinding your gears and you're all worked up yourself, you're at risk of triggering other people. And you learn all these triggers in my neuro success system. So here's the summary of what to do to activate open conversation, which will dampen down the kind of emotional event within you, and it will help open up the conversation with the person that you need to have it with. So activate the conversation is about making sure you also have open questions. So a closed question is, did you, or how do you? They demand a yes or a no answer. An open conversation demands an open question demands an open conversation. So as an example, the process I took my client through is getting her to say to the CEO, in regard to the change that's occurring, and she would insert what the change actually is. I'm just protecting her privacy. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you think this change is going? On a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you think this change is going? And then the leader, the CEO, would respond with a number like 1 to 10. Usually people, if it's really good, they pick 8. If it's going okay, they'll pick 6. Very rarely does anyone go, oh, it's a 10. So the next thing is to listen to their insights, right? So they've now given the change a 8 or a 6 or whatever the number is. The next question is, what would move it up the scale for you? Like, what can we do differently to move it up the scale for you? And then really listen with intent at what the suggestions that the other person is saying. At this stage, there is still potentially a blind spot that the other person doesn't see the reality of what's going on. Often we have rose-coloured glasses in terms of the change, particularly if we're sponsoring the change ourselves. So the next thing is to ask for permission. And in this ask for permission, this again there's some key reasons why you ask for permission from a neuroscience perspective, and you will get to learn this. My clients get to learn this in my programs, my coaching programs. So the asking for permission is, do you mind if I share my thoughts on the change? Do you mind if I share my thoughts on the change? Now, at this stage, if they say, I don't want to know your thoughts, which really doesn't happen, you do have to walk away from the conversation. However, if they're being receptive of it, they'll go, yeah, sure. Now, this asking for permission, if I can just quickly summarize the brain science behind it, it's putting them in a toward state. It's making them more open to a positive conversation. And it's less triggering to have a difficult conversation when you've asked for permission to provide your insights. The S is for share your insights. So the way to go about this is to really follow the track that you've just been through with the CEO or the person you're having the difficult conversation with. And this is what it looks like. For me, if I was to rate this change on a scale of 1 to 10, it would be a 6. From the outside looking in, I see a blind spot, and then you expand on what that blind spot actually is. For example, I see that some of the other senior leaders aren't supporting the change. They're not showing up to critical meetings. And in this step, it's really critical that you give tangible examples. It can't be fluffy. It can't be, I don't feel the change is going well. Share tangible examples of the unhelpful behaviour that you have observed and unhelpful behaviour that has been in the presence of the person you're bringing this issue up with. So in presence of the CEO. So the C in ALASCAS is calibrate their thoughts and understanding with your thoughts and understanding. So the question here to ask is, in what ways, now that I've shared with you where I stand on the scale of 1 to 10, and I've shared my insights to what I see some of the hurdles are that we're facing right now, this is the question you say, in what ways has this changed your perspective on how this change is going? and then again listen to what they're saying. And then the final step, now hopefully at this step and even the steps before, you've managed to have more dialogue, more open conversation with the person. Like in this simulation, it's really hard to get a sense for how the conversation actually happens. It's not a 5-minute process. You would be talking and bouncing back ideas through this process. The next step is really important, particularly if this person is the sponsor of the change, because often it feels really isolating as the CEO or the senior leader or a sponsor of the change when you're demonstrating those leadership skills. You very rarely have people ask you these types of questions and ask you how it's going. So in this question, this A, advocate, the question to ask is, how might I support you more through this change? So you're advocating for the CEO and suggesting that you can provide more support if they feel it necessary. And then finally, the final step is to self-advocate. Now, as leaders, we often don't do this. We spend so much time advocating for other people, we forget to ask for what we need. And this is particularly if you tend to fall down the try harder trap of people pleaser. It's very hard to ask for something that you need out of it. So in this step, you're going to self-advocate and state what support you need and what support others need through this change. So there you have it. I've shared with you some of the one of the processes in my just playing with my video there. I've shared one of the many processes in my Difficult Conversations Leadership Execution Guide. I truly hope that you find this helpful, and please reach out to me if you have any questions. As a final note, I do have a couple of spots coming up in my group coaching program that takes you through everything you need to know about leadership, self-belief, and really stepping up your leadership game by knowing how to do things like have these difficult conversations. So all the resources that I share throughout my Facebook Lives are available to my coaching clients, and you get that when you join the group coaching program. So if you're interested in taking up a seat in the group coaching program, I would be really more than happy to have a conversation with you to let you know what's inside that program to see if it's a right fit for you. Bye for now, lovely.